guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to combine two of my favorite things crafting wise, which are sewing of course, and then also crocheting. Because obviously you've seen the thumbnail, there is this hole, this cutout in the middle of your chest. How are we going to make this shape stay the way it stays? Well, the easiest solution that I found was to crochet around a wired shape. So that's what I'm going to show you today. And it was very, very important for me to show you on a very basic beginner level how to do this. So not only did I have to learn a new vocabulary, because obviously I know the words in German, I don't know, or I didn't know the words in English, so I had to look that up. And now I know. But also I had to look up how to make instructions on how to crochet, because I got taught by doing, like I got taught from my aunt and my mom how to crochet by them just showing it in front of me, and I am repeating the stitches. Basically, that's how I learned. I never followed any instructions ever. I was just freestyling for everything that I ever did, because for me that was always the easiest. I just don't like being bound to instructions, if that makes sense. For me, it's important to be able to translate the knowledge of how to do the stitches into any pattern by myself, not by another person, which is also main reason why I'm doing this channel, so that I can teach you how to do it yourself and not how to rely on other people's instructions. But that's beside the point. I wanted this to be a very beginner-friendly tutorial video, so I am going to show you step by step the very basics of crochet stitches, how to start, with the slip knot, then chain stitches, slip stitch, single stitches, so on and so forth. So that's all included in this video, and then of course also illustrated in the sewing instructions that you're gonna get if you click down below on the link that guides you to my Etsy shop where you can buy the pattern. So that was my main focus. And speaking about focus, I'm very sorry my camera is going in and out of focus throughout this video, which is very annoying for me and obviously also for you guys as the audience. I will try to fix that in my, coming videos, just as a heads up. Very sorry about this. But that's all that I wanted to say. I hope you're gonna enjoy this video. If you haven't already, go follow me on my socials. Links are down in the description below. Check them out, and let's just jump right into the video. In my pattern, I have a few different shapes that you can use. You're of course also very welcome to just make up your own shapes or do no shape at all. The body itself is very nice as a base block as well, so it's totally up to you. As this is elastic fabric, it's not only important to make a mock-up, as per usual, but it's also very necessary, as all elastic fabrics behave differently, and therefore your body in your fabric might differ to my body in my fabric. So please just always make a mock-up and try it on yourself before you get to work. For the shape of the hole, I'm using 2mm thick aluminium wire, which is sturdy yet easy enough to shape. I have my shape prepared, which I pinned down on a foamy kind of surface, which helped so much. I recommend a mouse pad or something similar, or I guess your ironing board will also work. I am copying the star with my wire using small crafting pliers, and then in the end I overlap the ends by a bit and use a smaller wire to hold them together. This is optional. You don't really need the smaller wire, they just hold together very much on their own after they've been crocheted over. But I did that, it worked as well, so if you don't have a smaller wire at hand, you're totally fine. The very basics of crocheting, what is it actually, because I don't know. Let me know down in the description below if you say crocheting with the T or crocheting without the T. Okay. The very basics of that, which you'll need for this project, includes 4 different things. I'm gonna try to explain those as best as I can. If I'm not doing it justice, I'm truly sorry. I've put some very helpful links in the video description down below for you guys to check it out. The first one is your slip knot. It's the start of more or less every sewing project. So you're gonna feed your yarn from the back of your left hand between your ring finger and your pinky and go around your index finger and around your thumb like I'm showing here.
Then you take your crochet hook. I'm using a metric size 8, US size L or 11, and UK size 0, and a yarn to go with that size. From the palm side of your left hand, I'm going into the thumb loop and hook onto the index loop and go back out of the thumb loop. Keep your crochet hook in the loop while you remove your left hand and pull your knot tight. The knot will only tighten up on one end, which is the longer one that we're going to use to crochet with. The following stitch is the chain stitch. With that, you define the width of your crochet work, as most of the time you're gonna go back and forth over these chain stitches and the resulting stitches thereafter. To make any stitches, you'll need to loop your yarn around your index finger, similar to the loops for the slip knot, just without the thumb loop. You can do 2 loops around your index finger or just 1. For me, 1 just works way better. Then you're just gonna hook around the yarn and pull it through the loop on your needle. The result looks similar to braids, and I really like it. For the wire shape, we're not going to need the chain stitches right now, that's why I undid them. I am back to a finished slip knot and have my yarn around my left hand ready to go, and my wire shape between my thumb and middle finger. I'm now going through the inside of the shape and hook around my yarn and bring it through the wire shape, keeping the loop on my needle, therefore having 2 loops on my needle, then hooking onto the yarn in front of the shape and pulling that through both loops on my needle, resulting in 1 loop on my needle again. This is called, funny enough, a single stitch in the US and a double stitch in the UK. I will be using the US term single stitch. I'm then repeating this stitch until all my wire is covered with yarn and no metal is visible anymore. Now is probably a good time to tell you that I picked the hardest shape to crochet. Thinking about it now, I should have probably done an umbrella as well. Anyways, the star is the most difficult one out of the shapes I have, which is why I am showing you this one specifically. Since it has a wire, the body is obviously hand wash only. That's also something that I wanted to point out. I'm going to show you a circle version without wire as well in a bit, but before we get into that, we're going to have to cover another very important stitch, which is the slip stitch. Slip stitches are used to close a row of stitches of any kind, so since we finished our first row around the wire using single stitches, we're going to finish the row with a slip stitch. Similar to the chain stitch, we're just going to go through the first single stitch we did, making sure to catch both sides of the single stitch, hook onto the yarn, pull it through, and then, unlike the single stitch, not keep it on the needle, but go through the loop on the needle instead. Again, please refer to the links down in the description below, because for the star, at least where I am working at right now, like the inner side of the star, you don't need that. I am just continuing on in a circle basically with another set of single stitches, and I'm gonna do a cluster actually that I am showing here as well that I'm gonna explain. The inner side of the star has less room for the stitches than the outer points of the star. Therefore, we need to crochet accordingly. I am decreasing the stitches on the inside of the star by 6. So I'm starting a single stitch, keeping the loop on my hook. Then I'm inserting my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, which leaves me with 3 loops on my hook from 2 unfinished single stitches. I do that 6 times in total until I have 7 loops on my hook. I then hook over another time and pull that loop through all the 7 loops on my needle, which means that I am decreasing 6 stitches into 1 single crochet stitch. From there I can just continue to single crochet all around until the next inner side of my star. I found that for the outer side you don't need to increase your stitches again, as there is plenty on the wire itself. At least that's my experience. You might have to experiment a bit on your piece, but for me it was just totally fine because we're going to end crocheting after the second row anyways. So that's all basically you have to do. Just decrease on the inner sides by 6, and then once you've reached your start of the second row, do a slip stitch again, cut off your yarn and pull it through the loop, and you're done with crocheting. I found, by the way, because you can see on the inner sides of the star a little bit of wire peeking through, once you're done with crocheting and you have that same problem, just wrap the inner corners of the star a few times with that wool, and you should be fine. I didn't do that for the recording because I only saw it when I was wearing it, so just a heads up, you can just wrap around the inner corner a few times and you should be good to go. So let's do the circle version without any wire. You want to make as many chain stitches as you need to tightly fit around the circle shape once you're gonna do your slip stitch. I found less is more as the stitches are somewhat elastic, so to avoid an awkwardly big hole in the center of your chest in the end, I would measure my chain stitches while pulling it tight around your circle shape. Once you're happy with the width of your circle, do a slip stitch, another chain stitch to start your row, and then do single stitches all around. I found that around 40 for my size of yarn and needle worked fine, so that's what I went with. I finished the row with single stitches as well, did another slip stitch, another chain stitch to start my next row, and then did another second row by only stitching into the single stitches of my first row. I didn't increase or decrease my circle at all. It worked really well that way because there were so many tightly packed single stitches in that first row that I didn't need to increase that at all. So that's what I did. This is the circle basically without any wire. I do have to say though, the circle, as there is no structure in this piece at all, and since the body is skin tight, it will pull a lot on this shape. So you're going to find that you're probably going to end up with an oval rather than a circle. Just a heads up. If you want to avoid this, you can obviously also use the circle form with wire, and then you're gonna have a perfect circle, just like you did have a perfect star in the end. Before you sew the body itself, you're going to have to finish the shape in the front piece. You're going to find the corresponding shape on the front pattern piece already. If you're doing your own shape, you're just going to have to transfer that shape onto your body as is without having to add any seam allowance. Now, if you're doing the shape that I prepared for you on the pattern itself, you're going to want to transfer the inner lines of that specific shape onto your front pattern piece and then cut it out. So scary yet so satisfying. So because the crocheted part has somewhat of a seam allowance already on it because of the chain stitches that you did before or because of the wire that you have in that piece, you don't need to add any seam allowance to your shape that you cut out of your body itself. You just can pin right sides together of the piece itself and the crochet part, and you're just going to want to stretch the fabric so that it fits onto your shape. It should fit fine, honestly, you don't have to stretch that much, and then you're just going to want to sew both pieces together. This is what it should end up looking like, super cute in my opinion. Now you take your back piece and match up your shoulder seams right sides together. We're gonna do the same order as per usual. First shoulder seams, then we're gonna sew the sleeves themselves, and then we're gonna close the side seams. It's just the easiest way in my opinion, so you're gonna have a better time sewing the sleeves in. If you're not sure which way the sleeves go in, fold them in half and check which curve is steeper. Usually the steeper curve goes together with the front, so that's a really useful tip on how to determine which sleeve goes in which side. And once done with that, we can go ahead and close the side seam. Also, another very useful tip, always sew from the waist up towards the sleeves because you want to sew your seam allowances into the sleeves themselves. So if you're going to sew in that direction already, your machine is going to help you put the seam allowance into your sleeves already. To finish the leg cutout, I'm going to show you the elastic binding method. Honestly, you can do any finishing method you like. I found using elastic binding was the easiest and cleanest for me. Obviously, if you can, match up the colors of your body and the binding. I didn't have a matching color in my binding. My elastic binding comes in two sides, I guess, a shiny one and a matte one. I prefer the matte one, it doesn't look that plasticky, so that's the one I'm using. I, before that, pinned the seam allowances towards the back, that's what you saw, just in case. The binding really helps you as it's made to fold in the middle already. You just need to put your knit in between the folded sides of the binding and stitch over it. I like to tighten the binding a bit more to get a really neat finish once wearing the body and everything sits tightly around my legs and hips. I also stretch both fabrics while sewing, as you still want everything to be elastic, and the normal stitch on your machine kind of doesn't allow that usually. As a way around that, you can use a zigzag stitch on your domestic machine. To close the body, you're going to find 8 circles on the bottom of front and back pieces. Hand sew 4 pairs of small 5mm push buttons on the body to close it. To finish the hems on the neck and the sleeves, I am doing a lettuce seam, which is a really nice technique to finish any elastic garments, or any garment, it doesn't matter if it's elastic at all. And it's really nice as it also makes a shape like a lettuce because you pull and you sew over it. It's really cute. I'm going to show you in the final videos.
And that's it already for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a very fast sewing project. The main thing that was a bit different or difficult was the crocheting part, so I hope you enjoyed this small dive into the world of crocheting. Of course, this is by far not all. So if you really want to learn how to crochet, I would suggest to just search on YouTube for other fellow crocheters and people who actually show you the advanced stitches as well, because there's so much more double, treble stitches than any like specific clusters or other more decorative stitches that I can't name in English yet. So there's so much more in this whole world of crocheting. So please go ahead and check other fellow YouTubers, creators out if you want to learn more. This was a very basic dive into the world of crocheting. But I hope you liked it nevertheless. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell so you'll get notified every time that I post. It's the easiest way to support me, and in my analytics, it actually says that only 40% of my audience is subscribed to my channel, so please go ahead and turn that button gray. It's super easy and it would help me out so much. Also, if you haven't already, check in the description below for all the links that I have been mentioning throughout this video, and then obviously also for the link to the pattern itself. It's in the pinned comment and the description. You will also find my social media links, very useful information down there. And yeah, I'm gonna show you how the bodysuit looks on me worn. I actually made 3 different pieces. I made the moon shape, the star shape, and the circle shape that you saw in the video. All of them are super nice and I really like them. My favorite's the star because I really like the color and the shape. So I'm gonna show you how these look like worn, and with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'm gonna see you next Sunday. Bye guys!